Another artist that I want to call your attention to is Christina Bateman, and her work is here. This is Maddie, a colored girl, 1904 to the present. And this work was originally in an exhibition about flag art. And it really has a kind of wonderful story. Maddie is actually the grandmother of the artist, and Maddie Sinclair is her name. And Christina's middle name is actually St. Clair, so she's even kind of carrying the lineage of the grandmother. And what Christina would inspire this is thinking about what was her grandmother's relationship to the flag, what was her grandmother's self-identity as an American citizen in 1904 when she was witnessing lynchings, and in 1904 when there was, so much segregation. How did she feel about her situation, her space in the United States? And it's just poetic, reflective, and the fact that the stars become part of the wall, it becomes part of her dress, and it's kind of a moment of introspection that I think we don't always get to see in representations of African Americans from this period. So again, there's a sense of kind of history and family storytelling. That is something that many of these works, I would say, have in common. With Maya's piece, she often brings in family photographs and kind of retells the tales that have been passed down through her family. With Christina, you see her doing that. Keisha Bruce's work, which is the last work on the left, and we can kind of walk down there now. That They Might Be Lovely. Landscape, I think you get that. You see that landscape is important for many of these artists, and certainly has been really crucial for me as a curator. And how do we as individuals relate to our space? One of the first exhibitions I curated at the Reginald Lewis Museum was called A People's Geography, the Spaces of African American Life. And that exhibition, it was about 24 artists, and it included everything from sculpture to digital mixed media videos, with a rapper from Senegal coming to the Bronx and trying to find the birthplace of hip-hop because he was connecting to a tradition that was popularized in the U.S. but is now also taken off in Africa. And what does it mean to be from a place? What does it mean that the Bronx is the birthplace of hip-hop? And that someone comes on a quest to find that, right? But going back to Keisha, you see the map of the United States in the background, thinking about where black people could move, right? Where, the trails of migration from Mississippi to Chicago, along the East Coast, thinking about the Underground Railroad, where were the black communities that were able to thrive, and where is, her family history is in Iowa, which is not a place I think many of us think about when we think about where black people live and prosper, right? And so being able to share her own family's history, and again use kind of vintage or archival photographs, landscapes, and maps to be able to tell that story. Let's see. I think maybe the last one I will talk about is James Singwald. It's here in the middle. For the people who are up close, I need 2 volunteers. One to read what it says here. Can you read that?
Hot Girls Boutique.
Okay. Do you see any hot girls?
Is that you?
Henry the Charmer.
And then a volunteer for someone over here.
Any and every bingo.
Right. I just think these are funny. I mean, you can look at them and see there's bleakness. There's some things that you see right on the surface. But if you actually spend a little bit more time thinking about, what was there is a poetry of lost moments. I think, we've kind of been inundated with so much of what has been called ruin porn, right? Images of abandoned buildings and factories and things crumbling. And there is a kind of pornography of ruins, of urban ruins. I don't necessarily see these photographs in that way. James Singwald is a graduate of Micah's MFA program as well, and he's been documenting Baltimore and Philadelphia, particularly row house communities, and doing a lot of then and now, looking at the historical photographs, and then going back and taking the exact same blocks, block by block by block. So it really is a visual recovery project is what he's doing. And, you know, not all of the photographs have, you know, like cute and catchy little phrases like this, but I think that we have to pay attention to those things. It's not just that, you know, it's boarded up and it's abandoned, but there's this kind of tension, I think, that happens in capturing moments that don't exist the way they used to, but this moment still exists. If you walk by today in Baltimore to Old Town, that's exactly what you'll see, right? So it is alive. There are no, you know, hot girls, as you said, standing outside the boutique anymore, but there may be a hot girl walking by, right, on some random day. And it just kind of, I think, asks us to look beyond the surface of what we think we're seeing when we're seeing something that's blighted. So I'll kind of end my remarks there. All of the artists that I included, I feel very passionately about. I think that they all have great talent. I love the fact that they're really bold in their use of color, because that's something, I have a Caribbean background, and I think, you know, Caribbean people kind of like color. I know that's a generalization, but it tends to be true. It tends to be true. So that, I have an attraction to that. I have an attraction to place and landscape. And one of the things I really do like is how the artists, particularly artists like Teddy, are bringing figures into that, and like Keisha, bringing figures into landscape and really making us think about identity in ways that are not just really racial or ethnic, but what is our sense of place? Where do we come from? You know, how do we come from those places? Not just where, but how do we come from those places? What does that mean? And the artists that are here, I would ask if you'd like to add anything. Teddy, Sharon, I didn't talk about your piece. Where are you? If you'd like to say something about your work. And Wesley, I'm glad, see, you guys can talk about your own pieces.